Are we truly alone in this universe? For thousands of years, humanity has always looked up to the sky and wondered, is there any other form of life out there, in places where light takes millions of years to reach? Through the centuries, countless theories, rumors, and strange stories have emerged. Some believe it's nothing more than illusion, but there are also witnesses who insist they truly saw, even made contact, with extraterrestrial beings. Although modern science has advanced further than ever before, humankind still cannot prove the existence of another civilization. Yet somewhere out there, amid the vast expanse of space, there may already exist an intelligent form of life, a knowledge far beyond our own, and perhaps they have once visited this earth in silence. Strange stories continue to surface, each account opening a new door, leading into an invisible world, where the boundary between reality and the mysterious grows faint. And one of the most shocking cases of all is the story of Betty Andreasson. What she later recounted made the entire world reflect what is truth and what is merely the product of imagination. Each detail, each fragment of her memory revealed a new aspect, full of surprises and challenges even for the most skeptical minds. All of it will be recreated in today's 30-minute video. The mystery of the Betty Andreasson abduction, a strange encounter with another power. This is Raymond Fowler, one of the most experienced UFO researchers in the United States. For many years, he devoted most of his life to investigating mysterious phenomena, from unidentified flying objects to alleged encounters with extraterrestrial beings. Fowler had collaborated with many organizations studying life beyond Earth and was regarded as a highly influential figure in the field of ufology. In early 1970, he received a report that caught his immediate attention. A woman in Massachusetts claimed she had been abducted by extraterrestrial beings. For Fowler, this was not just an interesting piece of information. It might be a rare opportunity to shed light on one of humanity's greatest mysteries. He quickly began tracing the witness through his network of UFO researchers. Soon after, he met that woman, Betty Andreasson, a gentle mother living with her family in a quiet, peaceful town. When asked about what had happened, Betty hesitantly said that she had encountered beings of strange appearance, small, slender, and seemingly able to communicate through thought. She also remembered undergoing several unusual experiments, but all her memories were fragmented, vague, and disconnected. Realizing this could be a rare and significant case, Fowler decided to use the technique of regressive hypnosis, a psychological method often applied to help people recover memories buried by psychological trauma. With the assistance of hypnosis specialists, Betty Andreasson participated in a series of regressive hypnosis sessions under the supervision of Raymond Fowler, the lead investigator of her abduction case. As soon as the hypnosis session began, Betty quickly fell into a deep state of relaxation. Under the guidance of UFO researcher Raymond Fowler, her faded memories slowly resurfaced, each image, each sound drifting back to one January night in 1967, the moment she said, "Everything truly began." That evening, Betty had just finished dinner and was cleaning up in the kitchen as usual. Her husband was in the hospital due to a traffic accident. while her children were playing in the living room. The quiet atmosphere of an ordinary evening was suddenly broken. A strong beam of light appeared outside the window, illuminating the entire house so brightly that she had to shield her eyes. Curious, Betty moved closer. Outside, she saw an object floating in the air, emitting a glowing pink light, but producing no sound at all. The kitchen lights flickered twice and went out completely, and right after that, a pink beam of light shone directly onto her. A wave of dizziness hit, and Betty lost consciousness on the spot. A while later, she awoke, unsure how. Before her stood beings she had never seen before, small, slender, with abnormally large heads and deep black eyes glowing in the dark. They showed no signs of aggression. Betty described that although she was briefly terrified, she soon felt calm again, as if someone were silently reassuring her. These beings did not speak, yet she could clearly hear their voices in her mind. Sounds that did not come from their mouths, but were transmitted directly into her consciousness through some form of telepathy. They signaled for her to follow. And in an instant, Betty felt herself being lifted off the ground, then moving with them into the very luminous object that had enveloped her house earlier. Inside the craft, everything was beyond human imagination. The space was lit by a soft white light with no visible source. The walls had no windows, yet when touched, they became transparent, allowing her to see the sky outside. Many objects in the room emitted a faint glow and seemed able to change shape according to the will of those controlling them. The beings led her through several different areas, each serving its own purpose: research zones, control rooms, and equipment storage. Finally, Betty was taken into a special chamber, where she became the subject of experimentation. She was placed on a bright white table, remaining fully conscious and aware of everything around her. But what surprised her most was that throughout the experiment, she felt no pain or discomfort. The beings used a series of strange-looking instruments, producing no sound, only gentle beams of light that moved across her muscle. Betty said it seemed they could observe her internal organs without dissection, as if using advanced medical technology unknown to humankind. She felt that they were examining every cell, every physiological response. They measured her heartbeat, breathing, and neural activity, every parameter carefully monitored using non-invasive devices. Light was directed into her eyes, as if testing her vision, and strangely, Betty felt relaxed, even curious, about the technology. But that was not all. What happened next made the experience even harder to explain scientifically. Betty said she was led into a metaphysical state, where religious images and symbols appeared repeatedly. Among them, the clearest was a phoenix rising from flames, an image she believed symbolized rebirth. That sensation was so profound that she felt these beings were not only studying the human body, but also seeking to understand the mind and the soul within. As a Christian believer, Betty felt she had come into contact with something beyond the limits of human understanding. She said they continued conducting more experiments, not only physical, but also psychological. These beings could read her thoughts, her memories, even her deepest secrets, without any tools or spoken language. That experience convinced Betty that those small beings possessed a deep understanding of the universe, the nature of life, and were trying to share it with her. Alongside the experiments related to the body and spirit, Betty Andreasson said she also underwent tests concerning emotions and the mind. According to her, the extraterrestrial beings observed human reactions by placing her in various simulated situations, from joy and happiness to anxiety and fear. All of it was carried out in silence, with only their deep black eyes watching. After the emotional test, she was subjected to a kind of test of will and patience. Betty said she was asked to keep her mind clear, in a meditative state for a long period of time, as if they were measuring the mental strength and concentration capacity of a human being. That pressure made her exhausted, but at the same time helped her better understand her own limits and endurance. When the entire examination process ended, Betty was taken to a room that looked like a bathroom. Soft, white light mixed with pink filled the space. She felt her body renewed, her mind at ease. She believed this was not only a physical recovery process, but also a form of spiritual purification, where all negative energy and psychological tension were completely removed. After completing all the experiments, Betty was returned to her home. She woke up in her kitchen, as if she had never left. Everything around her was exactly the same. Her children, the objects, the lights. Only the worried faces of her family members revealed that something strange had just happened. They said Betty had fallen into a deep sleep for a long time, unable to perceive anything. All of this information was carefully recorded by Raymond Fowler after the regressive hypnosis sessions. He believed this to be one of the most exceptional cases in the history of UFO research. After the investigation, Fowler made the case public and published the book, The Andreasson Affair. It immediately became the center of worldwide controversy. The story raised a series of questions. Did the events Betty described really happen? Who were those beings, and where did they come from? Fowler believed the answer lay in the detailed description Betty provided. Small beings with large heads and dark shining eyes. An image strikingly consistent with the gray aliens, also known as the extraterrestrial greys. These beings have long been symbolic in ufology, often described as having extraordinarily advanced intelligence and communicating through telepathy rather than spoken language. Many other witnesses have also recounted similar experiences, that their bodies were controlled, unable to move or resist. From the 1980s to the 1990s, the image of the gray alien gradually became a pop culture icon, appearing in films, books, and television programs, such as Close Encounters of the Third Kind by director Steven Spielberg. Along with this, numerous abduction reports were recorded, leading people to believe that an extraterrestrial research network was silently observing humankind. In fact, even before Betty Andreasson, in 1961, the couple Barney and Betty Hill also reported a similar abduction case. The remarkable coincidence, they too described their captors as identical to the gray aliens. 6 years later, the Andreasson case occurred, further reinforcing the belief among the UFO community that this might indeed be a real, ongoing phenomenon. Supporters of the extraterrestrial hypothesis believe Betty's experience is the clearest evidence of life beyond Earth. Fowler asserted that her statements under hypnosis were highly consistent and too detailed to have been fabricated. He believed the spiritual aspects of Betty's experience were proof of abilities far beyond human understanding. Many within the ufology community agreed, considering it a key case, demonstrating that extraterrestrial intelligence had once made contact with Earth. However, at the same time, criticism appeared widely. Some scientists and psychologists argued that what Betty experienced might not have been a real event, but rather the result of a complex psychological phenomenon. In particular, the regressive hypnosis method used during the investigation sparked major controversy. Many experts claimed hypnosis cannot reproduce accurate memories and may even create false ones, where reality and imagination become intertwined. According to them, the person under hypnosis is easily influenced by the questions or suggestions of the hypnotist, and it is precisely those guiding questions and suggestions that can cause the memories to lose their authenticity. According to psychological researchers, the fact that Raymond Fowler was a long-time UFO specialist might have unintentionally influenced the hypnosis process. With the mindset and expectations of someone who already believed in the existence of extraterrestrial beings, he tended to guide Betty in that direction, causing her to reconstruct memories based on the hypnotist's expectations. Experts refer to this as the phenomenon of suggested false memory, a state in which the hypnotized person believes they are recalling a true event. But in reality, they are forming new memories shaped by unconscious suggestion. Because of this, the accuracy of the details Betty described cannot be completely verified. There were no physical traces, no recorded evidence at the scene. Only her testimonies under hypnosis remained. This led many scientists to question, was the abduction, in fact, merely a unique psychological experience influenced by personal belief and the social context of the time? For the 1960s, 1970s were an era when UFO and alien stories flourished. Mass media, films, and news articles all helped shape the image of the gray alien, small beings with large black eyes and rounded heads, as symbols of ufology. It is highly possible that Betty was influenced by those images while in the highly suggestible state of hypnosis. From this perspective, her story was no longer evidence, but rather a typical psychological model of reconstructed memory. Yet even that cannot fully explain every detail. Because within Betty's account, there were elements that went beyond the bounds of psychology, particularly those with religious and metaphysical qualities. Some independent scholars suggested that what she experienced might not have involved extraterrestrials at all, but rather contact with supernatural entities existing beyond human spatial dimensions. This theory is known as the ultra-terrestrial hypothesis, also called the super-Earth hypothesis. According to this hypothesis, the beings Betty encountered did not come from another planet, but coexisted with humans in a different form of space, a dimension of reality that ordinary human senses cannot perceive. These entities may have existed on Earth for a very long time, but only appear sporadically through what we call paranormal phenomena. Supporters of this hypothesis argue that the details Betty described telepathic communication, absence of spoken language, and lack of physical evidence align more closely with the characteristics of non-physical entities than with those of conventional extraterrestrial life. They may represent a form of living consciousness existing on another energy plane, capable of transmitting thoughts directly into the human mind. In Betty's case, the experience carried strong spiritual overtones. She saw divine light, religious symbols, and described the encounter more as a journey of enlightenment than an abduction. Many believe this is a sign that she may have interacted with an ancient, supernatural form of existence, a being capable of crossing the boundaries between dimensions. The most distinctive difference between Betty's story and most other abduction cases is the blending of spiritual and scientific elements. While earlier incidents focused mainly on medical or technological aspects, Betty's experience contained symbolic imagery, religious motifs, and powerful metaphysical emotions. This is precisely what made the ultra-terrestrial hypothesis seem to many like a more reasonable explanation. However, just like regressive hypnosis, this hypothesis faces a major limitation: the lack of empirical evidence. All existing information still relies solely on Betty's account, recorded through the special hypnosis process. As for the interdimensional beings themselves, if they truly exist, they have yet to be verified by any scientific method. Therefore, although this hypothesis is fascinating, it still stands on the fragile boundary between spirituality, belief, and knowledge. Modern science has yet to prove it, and it remains extremely difficult to confirm through contemporary scientific means. Despite the many conflicting opinions, the ultra-terrestrial hypothesis still opens a new perspective on the connection between mystical phenomena, religion, and parallel dimensions. Nevertheless, it is undeniable that the case of Betty Andreasson has become one of the most famous reports questioning the existence of extraterrestrial life, attracting the attention of researchers for decades. We have seen various interpretations, from the gray aliens, the gray extraterrestrial beings, to the theory of supernatural entities existing in interdimensional space. Yet to this day, no hypothesis has been truly convincing, because all share the same weakness: the lack of concrete physical evidence. If we remove the supernatural and extraterrestrial factors, another, more scientific explanation can be considered: the phenomenon of false memory. According to this hypothesis, what Betty recalled during her regressive hypnosis sessions may not have been genuine memories, but distorted or reconstructed fragments within her mind. Neuroscientists point out that the human brain does not store memory like a tape recorder. Each time we remember, the brain actually reconstructs the event based on emotions, beliefs, and surrounding context. And during this reconstruction, part of the content can be altered, added, or entirely imagined. In Betty Andreasson's case, this hypothesis suggests that the process of regressive hypnosis itself triggered a blending of imagination and belief, creating the memory of an alien abduction that she truly believed was real. In addition, her psychological and religious background also played a significant role. Studies show that people with strong beliefs in the supernatural or UFO phenomena are more susceptible to false memories. Betty came from a Christian family and personally held deep faith in spiritual matters. That faith, combined with the deep hypnotic state, created the perfect environment for imagination to operate intensely, reconstructing images and emotions that seemed real, but were in fact formed within the subconscious. Beyond psychology, mass media at the time also had a significant influence. By the late 1960s, news reports, films, and comic books about UFOs were everywhere. The image of gray aliens with large heads and black eyes had become a global symbol of extraterrestrial life. Betty's exposure to such images in movies or magazines may have shaped her memory so deeply that they became intertwined with her personal recollections without her realizing it. Psychologists expanded on this hypothesis by comparing it to the Mandela effect, a phenomenon in which many people collectively misremember a detail or historical event. The common ground between the two lies in the fact that human memory is influenced not only by individual perception, but also by cultural, social, and collective psychological factors. In Betty's case, those factors, religion, media, and personal belief, interacted and reinforced one another, making her imagined memories feel absolutely real in her mind. Many people have firmly believed they saw or experienced something, when in fact it was only the result of the brain's natural tendency toward distorted recall. Thus, the case of Betty Andreasson is viewed by many experts as a typical example of false memory, combined with the cultural influences of its era. It demonstrates that human memory is not an absolute record, but a flexible structure easily shaped by belief, suggestion, and environment, even without the involvement of hypnosis or external manipulation. In Betty's case, if she truly believed she had been abducted by extraterrestrials, that very belief itself could have contributed to the formation of distorted memories, images and emotions created within her subconscious, which gradually became real in her mind. From a psychological standpoint, the false memory hypothesis remains the most reasonable and scientific explanation for the strange experiences she described. Factors such as regressive hypnosis, the influence of popular culture, and deep religious faith may all have intertwined to produce inaccurate memories of an alien abduction. Even so, Betty's story continued to draw widespread attention from both the UFO research community and those fascinated by the supernatural for many years. It has been analyzed, debated, and reinterpreted in countless materials, from conspiracy theories and psychological studies to research papers on religious and mystical phenomena. In fact, Betty Andreasson were not the first to report being abducted by extraterrestrials. What she described, from the being's appearance, the feeling of paralysis, to the physical examinations, bore striking similarities to other UFO cases of the same era. This led experts to question, could Betty's memories have been influenced by media and popular culture? That possibility is entirely plausible. She may have been subconsciously affected by the widespread images, on television and in magazines, of gray aliens, and unknowingly incorporated them into her own recollections during hypnosis. Her religious faith was also a crucial factor. For someone with strong Christian beliefs, every metaphysical experience could easily be interpreted as a divine message rather than a purely physical event. This made her memories even more intertwined between reality and spiritual symbolism. From a scientific perspective, Betty's case has never been conclusively verified. No physical evidence, no traces, no artifacts. The entire story rests solely on her personal testimony under hypnosis. For that reason, the authenticity of the event remains a major question. Many UFO researchers admit that her account differs little from other abduction reports that spread widely during the 1960s. Although the case has inspired many well-known books, it still has not managed to fully unravel any mystery. All the details came from forgotten and reconstructed memories, making even experts unable to confirm their validity. Nevertheless, Betty's story holds certain significance in the history of UFO studies, not only because it is one of the most representative cases, but also because it reveals the intersection of psychology, religion, and belief in other dimensions. It reminds us that sometimes the mystery does not lie in the universe beyond, but within the human mind itself, where memory, faith, and perception merge into a world of their own. From my personal perspective, I believe the case of Betty Andreasson should be viewed as a complex psychological phenomenon rather than definitive evidence of extraterrestrial existence. That story, whether real or imagined, forces us to confront the limits of human understanding. With its surreal details and intense emotions, it is not merely a tale about UFOs, but a lesson on how humans react to the unexplainable. Was it a real event, or simply the product of imagination and the subconscious? Perhaps we will never know. But it is precisely this unanswered mystery that makes the story so strangely captivating, driving humanity to keep searching, to keep questioning the possibilities hidden within the vast universe. On that journey, what truly matters is not whether we find the answer, but that the search itself opens new horizons for humanity, beyond the limits of our known reality. If this story has made you think deeply, share this video so that others can also explore a different perspective on the case of Betty Andreasson. Don't forget to hit like, subscribe to the channel, and turn on the notification bell so you won't miss the next videos, where we will continue the journey to uncover the mysteries still waiting for answers in the boundless universe.